here's the first look at the Ferrari Testarossa. I like to get a good idea of what I'm working with after the car is washed, which it was, and it was clay barred. So all the panels feel smooth, but you can see faded and oxidized, water spots too, swirls and scratches in some places. Also dust, so I think this car just sat for the last few years at least. The inspection was up since 2018, so I'm guessing this was just a car that just sat for a little while, and over the years just was covered and maybe touched or washed wrong. It just, it needed some attention. So all of this is no brainer, no big deal. This is going to clean up just fine. As you can see, here's some more scratches underneath the logo. Now, when it comes to these older cars, I like to see, okay, is this car single stage or is it two-stage paint, base coat clear? So what I do is I take a rag, preferably white or light colored, just so you can see if there's color transfer. But I found this green one. You can see there's no color transfer when I rub on this quarter panel. So I was like, oh, okay. We have clear coat on this quarter panel, but what about the roof? Well, I found color transfer on the roof, which obviously I suspected, considering it was faded. So I just take note of this. Okay, so here are the tools and products that I used on the Ferrari Testarossa. I have some Jescar cutting compound and micro polish. To the left, I have a Rupes Bigfoot 21 with a black foam polishing pad. To the right has a smaller 5-inch orange cutting pad, and then the Bigfoot Mini all the way to the right. Okay, so now I have all my equipment set up. I want to tape off some of my edges. It's important that you keep track of these old rubbers and old trim pieces on these cars, because you don't want to damage them when you're polishing. So I try to take extra care and extra time to just tape up some of these hard edges. I don't want to burn through any paint either. So I'm just kind of protecting myself from both cleanup and just from any potential damage when polishing. In this section, you can see this is a really hard body line. It's from the A-pillar to the fender and door. There's a little rubber line that's on this edge. So what I do is I'll take tape and I'll put it on one half of that line, so I could do one panel, and then I switch it and I could do the other panel for when I'm polishing. And here I'm going to take a Rupes machine with the polishing pad and some light polish, and I'm just going to give a quick, mow down of the paint, as some detailers like to call it. I just want to get some of this heavy oxidized and dead paint off. I get this off first, and then I'm going to come back with, after I clean the pad off, I'm going to come back with some polish and focus on, okay, how are we looking? How far can I go with this? Can I remove any swirls? Because we don't want to remove too much paint. We want to kind of preserve the amount of paint on the car. Alright, so here's the end result after 2 passes. One mow down pass first, which was fast to get the heavy dead paint off, and then the second pass a little bit slower, just to get out some heavy defects and the water spots and such to get some clarity. As you can see, we're making pretty good progress, considering I only used a micro polish, which is the least aggressive approach, and a very soft foam polishing pad, which again, least aggressive approach. And of course, I'm going to start on this half of the roof and get it looking like the first half that I did. Do my mow down method first, and then I'm going to attack with a slower polishing pass. Just wanted to go over something really quick. Considering that this car is single stage, you can see the color transfer on this pad. Even with a black pad, you can see it. So I'm going to clean this out with this microfiber. Compressed air works perfectly well. It actually works the best. But I didn't want to make a mess in the shop, and I didn't actually have access to it. It was on the other side of the shop, and I wasn't going to go over there and clean it out. So instead, I used a microfiber rag. It worked perfectly, and it captures all that dust into the rag as well. So it contains the mess. But it's important to do this routinely just so the paint correction process goes smoothly. This Ferrari really responded great to the paint correction. Just using a light polish with a foam polishing pad, I was able to not only remove oxidized paint, but I was actually able to get out swirls as well. So the clarity now is just second to none. Okay, as you can see, I have the Rupes Nano. I'm using this for the A-pillars, which are very, very narrow. I don't want to use too big of a pad, like a 3-inch or larger, because it's just going to bang into the edges, and I don't want to risk damaging or burning through any paint or trim pieces. Again, I use a slightly big machine on the mirrors. This is the Rupes Mini, and they clean up very nicely. So this quarter panel was actually repainted, and it was repainted in a 2-stage setup in a normal base coat clear, which you will see on every single car that is driving about today. So cutting this is actually different than cutting the rest of the car. I needed to use compound as well, so I compounded first to remove all the heavy swirls and scratches, just like I would on a regular car, and I then followed with polish afterwards. The rest of the car, though, I did not need to do this. All I had to do was just use this polishing step, and it was enough to remove all of the defects in the paint. See, now, paint corrections are not totally cut and dry. They're not black and white. Every car is different. You know, no matter what you're dealing with, like you might be using different products. The steps might be very similar, but there's always some sort of varied process or technique needed per car. So it's important to just approach every single detail, or even when you're cleaning your own car, approach it just with patience. Have patience and have confidence that you can achieve an end result that is definitely satisfactory to you, satisfactory to the customer, and others who see the car as well. Remembering that this car has pop-up headlights, I flicked them on so I can polish the edges and sides of them. Okay, and after the polishing process is done, you finished all the panels, you move on to the coating stage. Now, whether it's ceramic coatings or graphene coatings, the install is roughly the same. You just apply it to your microfiber applicator pad or applicator of choice. A couple of drops is all you need, and apply in swift, straight left and right passes overlapping each other. Just get a good spread and follow the directions per coating that you're installing. Every manufacturer is different. Some have a 10-second flash over time, some might have a minute. So just be mindful about your ambient temperature in the room or surrounding area, and pay attention to the instructions on the bottle. Also, have patience. Do not rush this. Take your time. This is all very easy to do. It's just time consuming. So be patient and just take your time, and it's going to come out great. Now, you might have noticed that I'm actually working this large panel in half sections. It's also important, and it's really helpful. You know, this coating, I want it to be controllable. I don't want it to flash over before I have time to wipe it away. Otherwise, I might have high spots, and those could be frustrating to remove. So I like to not bite off more than I can chew, I should say. So I'm going to start on one half of this large panel, make sure I coat it and remove it, and then proceed to the next half. It's okay to do this. You don't have to do it in one shot. Take your time with it. Make sure you really buff off all the excess coating, and it'll look great. Okay, so here I am on the side of the Ferrari, just continuing on with the coating process. Gonna work from this front fender, then I'm gonna do the door and then the quarter panel after. I would normally have headphones in, listening to music. I find this stage to be probably the most therapeutic stage out of the entire detail. I do enjoy paint corrections, but sometimes the machine being loud and just the vibrations and whatever, sometimes it gets annoying. So once you get to the coating stage, it's nice and calm, and it's almost soothing. Like you could kind of just like relax and think, about life, or think to yourself and reflect. So I really appreciate the hour or two I take when doing the coating process or the final touches on any detail. Okay, so now that we're done with the exterior, let's work on the interior. I popped the front door open and I hit that latch for the front bonnet, because this was going to be my starting point. So I lift it up and I say, okay, what do we got? A bunch of random items. I also noticed that the both the engine bay and the front bonnet didn't stay open, because it seems like the struts or hinges, they went bad. So I had to prop them. Took some things out of the trunk. It looks like I found some tool kits, which was pretty cool. Look at these Ferrari wrapped leather bags. Pretty neat. Some other miscellaneous items like a CD and a sweatshirt. But I just kind of take everything out, and I'm going to give it a good vacuum. As for inside the car, there wasn't really much going on. I just did a quick vacuum and I wiped down like a panel or two that might have had like a smudge. But other than that, it was pretty clean, so I didn't really mess with it too much.